Many thanks for your time and for joining me on the Marketplace. You're welcome back. Now, a new set of regulations to strengthen the financial sector supervision is expected to take off from next year. Head of Financial Sector Division of the Ministry of Finance, Samson Akligo, disclosed this at the launch of the APSA Financial Market Index. Mr. Akligo says they are working with the Bank of Ghana to ensure recent challenges that hit the financial sector do not happen again.
I hope that the industry would appreciate the sacrifices being made by the Central Bank, the SEC, the MPRA, the National Insurance Commission, and the Ministry, and engage so that we can work faster for the progress of the country. Barclays have been at the forefront of many firsts in our market. Our markets require a lot of work to deepen its technical expertise, product innovation, use of technology that will transform the economy and create jobs. Sincerely, the number of jobs created by financial services is still limited. When you see the figures, you'll be surprised. We still have a lot to do when you look at the size of the economy. Institutions like Barclays and others must work to expand their scope and reach and compete to make access to financial services more encompassing. But to achieve this, there must be a change of attitude, a change to exert positive peer influence on the industry. The challenges that confront us today, that we have to spend a lot of months to address, is because the good institutions and professionals refuse to speak up when there was obvious bad behavior or when there is obvious bad behavior. We knew that product quality by a lot of institutions, including savings and loans and microfinance, were not right, they were wrong. We knew that the level of interest rates were not realistic. We knew people were abusing finance, but we could not speak up. The failure, sincerely, is all ours. It's not only the regulator, it's not only the policymaker, but it is all of us who are sitting here.
Now, the local currency is now 2 pesos shy by hitting 5 cedis against the dollar. It closed yesterday trading at around 4 Ghana cedis, 98 pesos against the US dollar on the interbank market. So what has resulted in the current depreciation of the cedi's value again? There's more in this report.
For those who are in the business of currency trading in most of the major banks, the challenge has got to do with limited supply of dollars on the market. This has come about as a result of a spike in demand for dollars by businesses to finance imports. The local currency, which had been fairly stable late October to early November this year, started depreciating sharply again from the middle of last month. Some of the traders had told Joy Business it even hit the 5 cedi mark during trading earlier today, before getting back to 4 cedis, 98 pesos. Some of the traders had told Joy Business it even hit the 5 cedi mark during trading earlier, before getting back to 4 cedis, 98 pesos. It is, however, unclear for now why the Bank of Ghana might be dragging its feet in terms of meeting the market demand for dollar supply. This is despite the strong dollar reserve positioning of the Bank of Ghana. Data from the central bank puts its dollar reserve as of ending of October at $6.3 billion after going down by $700 million because of earlier interventions by the regulators. However, persons close to the regulator have maintained they be strategic with these interventions so they do not end up depleting their reserves.
Let's turn our attention now to agric. And over the years, financing agriculture has been a major challenge for farmers despite several interventions. Ahead of this year's Farmers' Day celebration, Philip Namfuri takes a look at financing trends in the entire agricultural value chain in this report.
Ghana's agricultural sector comprises of crops, livestock, forestry and logging, and fishing subsectors. The sector's share of GDP has witnessed some ups and downs, declining and currently stands at 21.2%. Growth in the entire sector has witnessed an increase from as low as 0.9% in 2014, rising to 2.9% in 2016 and 6.1% in 2017. The growth in 2017 was driven largely by the cocoa subsector, facilitated by the Planting for Food and Jobs program. Now, with such potential for growth, why is lending to the sector a challenge? Has government and the private sector not taking note of the importance of agriculture? Data from the Bank of Ghana has revealed that as of June 2018, the crops, forestry and fishing sector received 3.9% of the total credit in the banking industry, which translates to about 1.5 billion cedis. Again, as of June 2018, the proportion of loans gone bad in the sector stood at 33.9%, which is perhaps on the high side. Maybe this is the reason why banks are shying away from the agri sector. Does this confirm the notion that lending to the agri sector is risky? Currently, government plans to establish a National Development Bank to cater for the financing needs of the agri sector. Will that be enough? What about the financing vehicle launched by the Bank of Ghana in 2016, the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending? The only thing that remains is how we can grow the sector from a financing perspective as a result of the massive potential it provides.
Is right here with me in the studio to get some more on the analysis on agri financing in the country. Philip, you're welcome to the market.
Thank you very much.
Now, so what more can you tell us about this analysis that you've been conducting?
Okay, so over the course of years, we've seen that government intervention in the agricultural sector has been necessary in terms of policies, in terms of financing. But we've seen that private sector has been shying away from this sector because of the perceived risks that come with agricultural finance.
Largely because they depend on the vagaries of the weather.
Exactly.
Okay.
And amongst other things, the long-term nature of it. So what I realized was that, okay, our banks in Ghana are more skewed towards short-term lending. So I wanted to delve into it and find out how exactly or how much exactly is going to the agricultural sector. And that was what the report sought to do. Let's find out the private sector's role in financing agriculture, because we are very accustomed to government's role in financing agri. Now let's look at the private sector and what they do with regards to agriculture.
All right. So with bank lending, how fair or bad is agri performing? Okay.
When I looked at the Bank of Ghana's banking sector report for July 2018, as of June 2018, the percentage of loans or lending that goes to the agri sector overall from these 30 universal banks is 3.9%. That's a very low figure. If you look at other sectors, such as transport and communication services, you realize that it's in double digits. Why? One, because the agricultural sector is risky. Two, it involves long-term funding, and our banking structure is short-term in nature. The deposits that we get are short-term in nature. Okay. So banks will not want a mismatch. That is why you see that there are a lot of funds going to short-term areas instead of long-term areas. The other thing is that the percentage of loans going bad, what we call the non-performing loans in the agri sector, Bank of Ghana categorizes as agri, forestry, and fishing. They put all these together. It's 33.9%, which means that when banks give out loans to the agri sector, 33.9% of these loans go bad.
That's significant.
Very, very significant. Now, if you look at the share of credit that goes there, when I did the math, it's about 1.5 billion out of 38 or 39 billion gross loans for the period under review. That was up to June 2018. So out of 39 billion that went to banks, only 1.5 billion, that's the 3.9%, went to the agri sector, agri, forestry, and fishing. You realize that it's not enough to sustain this. And if you look at it, yes, we're not come to apportion blame, but you realize that there are some structural oddities that prevent banks from moving into this area. That's agriculture.
All right. Now, we know the ADB was, established to, as it were, help the agri sector with access to credit. This has not been the case. But now, government wants to establish a National Development Bank. Will this make any change? Okay, so I'll start off from the ADB. ADB was initially set up in 1965 to channel lending to the agricultural sector. Over the course of time, in 2004, we saw Bank of Ghana pass a new act that saw the introduction of the universal banking license. That saw that, okay, so now banks can lend to anywhere. But if you check ADB's annual reports, you realize that agriculture is still high on their lending list. One. Two, the National Development Bank is a fantastic idea, but government will need to source long-term funding, also to be the same thing as the banks that we have now in the economy, because most of the banks are going into retail lending and into the commercial space. So what the government needs to do is to source long-term funding. And we spoke to Dr. Daniel Sedo, he's a financial consultant, and he says, look, we need to tap into the pensions market and the life insurance market. They offer long-term liabilities for government to tap into. If I come to mobilize deposits from you and I, it's going to make the lending to agriculture as difficult as it was in prior years. All right, now finally, you talked about a financing scheme, GESAL. What exactly is it and how is it improving access to credit? Okay, so GESAL is the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. It was launched in 2016 by the Bank of Ghana with technical assistance from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the Alliance for Green Revolution for Africa, that's AGRA. So this is a lending vehicle that's supposed to channel private sector funds to agriculture. Okay. So essentially it's supposed to de-risk the lending in that sector by government coming on board together with private sector players. There are 6 areas that they focus. One example is technical assistance and insurance.
from the or an insurance facility. From the 2019 budget, what government is saying is that they're going to give this scheme $400 million and $14 million from the African Development Bank, so that we de-risk lending from the agricultural sector and ensure that the private sector, such as our banks, our mainstream universal banks, can channel funds in there for long-term development. Emmanuel.
All right, many thanks for that incisive outlook on agri financing. Thank you very much. Philip Namfuri is an in-house analyst, and he's been sharing his thoughts ahead of Farmers' Day, which comes up this Friday. All right, moving on the marketplace, loss of state funds through forged documents, payroll fraud, fake licensing, and illegal transactions continue to be a bane of economic underdevelopment. There is, however, a technology experts are recommending for adoption by governments in finding a lasting solution. Experts say it can be programmed to record financial and other transactions of values. Meral Harel is Israeli owner of MH Fintech, a technology company with lots of experience in blockchain technology. He spoke with Prince Appiah, who is on the Business of Truth Forum in South Africa.
The Business of Truth event in South Africa brought a number of journalists from across 20 countries of the world to introduce them to new digital tools to enhance their work as journalists and then to help them monetize their product. One thing that came up was the introduction of blockchain into the field of journalism. Now, experts believe that it is about time that African countries take advantage of the blockchain technology to enhance the economies.
People are writing their transactions on blockchain. There isn't a bank in the middle there that is taking commission for that, right? So that's one point of view that could be helpful. That's when I'm talking on Facebook, okay, or I'm searching on Google, I am creating data, right? Who does this data belong to? Ideologically, it's supposed to be mine, right? I'm creating it. I'm sitting down, I'm watching things, I'm doing things, I'm asking questions. But the truth is I'm not getting anything out of it, except the service, of using Facebook or Google, right? But they're making a lot of money out of my data, right? They're putting advertisements and they're getting money from the advertisers, which I'm not seeing a cent of. Now that's kind of unfair, but we don't have much of an alternative, right? If you create these same ideas on blockchain, you could have a situation where people are kind of storing their own data, right? So I'm creating content, I'm writing things, I'm putting videos up, and then I can decide who I want to sell this data to. And I could be monetizing my data and getting the money myself, right?
She believes that it is very critical in the times that African countries are battling with what has become a canker, corruption. Blockchain is a way to go to address this particular canker.
I know that there are places in Africa where the governments are creating currencies that are not necessarily stable and there's corruption around it, right? What if people, and you have examples of this in different places, people create their own currency in a little village or in a little place, and instead of trading between themselves, okay, I'm going to do your laundry, you babysit my kid, they could be actually trading this currency, which is kind of separate from the country-created currency. They could have their own financial independence without being, dependent on a government that is not necessarily fair to them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So where does blockchain come into this? I think this is kind of like a chance. If you look at blockchain as I'd say the infrastructure for cryptocurrencies, I say cryptocurrencies.
And that report was by my colleague Prince Appiah from Johannesburg, South Africa. Let's turn our attention now to the oil and gas industry, the downstream sector, of course. And the Tema Oil Refinery has refuted claims by the Institute of Energy Security that the refinery has incurred a $24 million loss as a result of drastic reduction in prices of crude oil on the international market. According to a statement released by the Public Relations Manager of TOR, Dr. Kingsley Mtshibwesiako, the claims by IES are based on flawed assumptions and that there is a direct correlation between the drop in global prices and the price of TOR products on the local market. The statement says, for the avoidance of doubt, a fall in the international crude oil price does not necessarily correspond to an equal degree of the fall in prices of petroleum products. I have on the phone lines now research analyst of the IES, Migdad Mohammed, first to tell us about his reaction to this rejoinder by TOR. Plus, we also get some analysis from energy expert Kwaju Boku. Migdad, if you can hear me, welcome to the marketplace.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
All right, so you stated that there's no sight of the next parcel of crude oil for TOR currently. That's one of your claims. but Tor has refuted this allegation. It says currently there's an arrangement that provides the next parcel of crude oil. What's your reaction to this?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And we must state on record that IES is not interested in the downfall of the Tema Oil Refinery. Indeed, when government announced the decision or the proposal for transforming the state's premier refinery into a tank farm, it must be on record that IES was one of the agencies that kicked against that idea, because we think that Tor remains a strategic national asset, which is not only to be in existence for the sake of national pride, but also for it to be producing efficiently to support Ghana's energy security. And so it comes as a surprise to us that the best response the public relations of Tor could put out is just to write a set of English without any factual basis.
Yeah, but let's move on to the point.
Without any factual basis, because the allegation or the statement that Tor is running currently, or they have made arrangements for there's a difference between saying Tor is running and also that they have made arrangements for crude. Now, to start and close and shut down the machine, the Tor machine, whether it's a CDU or the RLCC or the entire refinery system, it costs between $400,000 to $450,000 just for the gasification of the Tor refinery system.
But Megdad, can you hear me?
To simply start
Megdad.
and shut down the machine itself is even a cost on its own. And then secondly, you come to the cost involved in the shift in fundamentals of market pricing. For the public relations officer to say that there's no such relation is something that beggars belief, because as I speak to you, if you look at the time that Tor procured the crude, the refinery period and now, LPG, finished product, LPG has fallen by about 44% on the international market. Gasoline has fallen by over 30% on the international market. And gas oil has equally experienced a similar development.
Megdad.
And this is not an IES fact.
Can I make a point here, Megdad?
Yes.
Yes, so the PRO of Tor is actually saying that you do not have, or you are not privy to the dealings, the actual particular dealings of Tor with regards to its suppliers, its distributors, and whatever. So how are you reacting to this particular issue?
And that is why I'm telling you that it is just a matter of of semantics that you say someone is not privy to it. The only thing that we will say we are not privy to is the details of the extra agreement they might have signed with BP, which we have requested for, and they have refused to make it available. But
yes,
what
so,
we have seen,
so if you don't have experts,
that is,
knowledge of this particular agreement with BP, how do you then conclude?
Assumption that such a thing exists. That is just on the assumption that such a thing exists.
Okay.
The main crux of the agreement, the contract agreement between BP and Tema Oil Refinery is something that we have and we have looked at in detail. What we have said is that Tor is alleging that there have been some extra developments which we are not privy to. And that's why I'm saying that even if it is true, that will be the only part of the transaction that we are not privy to. What we are privy to is
can you hold on here?
Currently, the refinery is not running. And if it is not running and you have shut down, it will take an extra $400,000 to start and shut down the machine again.
All right, Megdad, let's now bring in...
The more the machine runs continuously,
Megdad,
the more profitable or the more cost-efficient production will be.
All right, so let's bring in here. We also have our Skype. Megdad, we have our Skype Kwadwo Poku, who is an energy expert, to join in the discussion. Now, Kwadwo, what is your take on the assertions by the IES that Tor has incurred heavy losses as a result of reduction in crude prices?
Well, and I hope you can.
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Well, it's very unfortunate that the gentleman will say that the PRO of it's putting things on paper without any evidence, or so to say, they don't have the right to respond to what IES put. Let's ask ourselves, what is the interest of IES in all this matter? We all want all to work. What Ghanaians should is Tor employs a lot of Ghanaians. So if IES put such a damn report out there, alleged that government should invest. There are losses. Without proper access to information, without proper understanding of the transaction between O and BP, who is causing the problem here?
All right, now
clearly asked him.
Kwajopo, can I come in here? Is it true? Is it true?
Have access to the content. There has not been any losses. BP gave an open credit to Tama Oil Refinery. So why would you allege that there's been losses?
Now, Kwajo, can I come in here? Is it true that there's no correlation between, the time or the prices of the crude oil on the international market and how Tor sells its products downstream here?
No, not at all.
Okay.
If you look at the world market, you can go online and look at the drop or the rise in the prices of crude, plot that against the rise or the drop of Platts. There isn't a direct correlation because as every business, the crude price that we are seeing now is for delivery. If I have refined, every refinery will refine that crude, make their margin, then the next that comes in at the cheaper price is what they reduce the prices on. So nobody uses extra prices around the world. Now let me even say, what they are saying that is because the first pass of that came from BP had only gone through the CPU. It is yet to go to RFCC. So if the full pass has not been refined, how do you conclude this losses?
All right.
So we should be mindful of how we jump some of these conclusions at think time.
All right. So you've made a point. Let me go finally to McDad for your final words, McDad.
Well, I think that if anyone, for whatever purpose, wants to serve as PR for Tor, he should be able to do that without any hindrances. And I've listened to the argument that there is no correlation between the fall in Brent crude price for this particular window upon window we have seen and finished products prices. And I find that argument extremely low and uninformed, because I have mentioned the fact that you can make a reference to the falling Brent crude prices. Of course, there are instances where there are exceptions, where falling Brent crude prices doesn't drag along the price of finished products. But for this particular window, the windows we have seen from when Tor procured their crude in September to the current period, I have made reference to the fact, and these are references anyone can simply check, that there is a corresponding fall in LPG by 44%.
All right.
By over 22%.
So I guess we could go on and on and on, and definitely we'll find time to further this discussion. But on that note, we have to draw the curtains down on the marketplace today. Many thanks for your time. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good afternoon.